There's a poem by Dylan Thomas. It goes, "Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wise men at their end know dark is right, but because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night." Good men, crying how brightly their brave deeds might have danced on a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late and grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Brave men near death who saw with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my Father, there upon the sad height, curse, bless me now, with your fierce tears I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. We are at a point right now with our health care where we are at a position where we have to rage against the dying of our own health care. Yes, sir, you in the back.
We'll make it louder.
Is there anybody else who can't hear me?
Yeah, you speak more into the microphone. We'll raise it slightly.
Maybe we need to do something with the amplifiers.
No, that's
Can you all hear? Can you hear in the back? All right. Good. The only thing you missed was a poem, so not to worry. We are at a situation where we have to take a stand. Because as you heard a little earlier, Chris Van Hollen was listening, but he wasn't hearing us. There is another force that is out there that is not having the constituents dictate what our politicians are doing. And I tell people, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. I'm a geriatrician, as you've heard. I take care of seniors, some of them the frailest, most vulnerable portion of our population. The fastest growing segment of our population right now is over the age of 85. We are in the midst of what has sometimes been described at the National Institute on Aging, and I actually served as an advisor on aging to NIH. And it has been described that we are in what currently is sometimes called the silver tsunami. It is the age wave. The baby boomers reaching 65 and beyond, where not only do they make up a greater portion of the population, but as they reach those older ages, they have more diseases, are more complex, and require more astute medical care than was required of the younger portions of the population. Interestingly, despite the fact that the demand for primary care physicians and geriatricians is increasing, the relative number of primary care providers, especially geriatricians, is decreasing. How can that be? Are there people who don't want to be physicians? The AAMC, the American Association of Medical Colleges, has said we don't need any more medical school slots. We have plenty of applicants, and if we take any more students than we'll have more providers in the future than we will need. That sounds sort of crazy to me. They've been wrong every year since I've ever gone into medical school. No sense in thinking they're right now. As it turns out, we know that the demand for physicians is clearly increasing in terms of primary care. Yet the number is going down. Why is the number going down? It's because the laws of supply and demand, the normal laws of economics, have been superseded by some laws that were handed down on Capitol Hill, not very far from here. One of those laws took place when FDR was president in 1942. That law said we are going to allow a benefit of health care to be tax deductible if your employer pays for it. If you pay for it, it's not tax deductible. FDR did that because at the time there was a freeze that he had imposed on salaries for business. The economy was in a terrible strait, and he was trying to change it. And he was worried about inflation, so he he imposed caps on salaries. Deja vu, huh? Anyway, what he ended up doing was counterintuitive. He went exactly against his own philosophy and said, okay, I'm not going to let you raise your salaries, but the unions are after me. Folks who own businesses are after me to be more competitive, and despite I've got a workforce going to war, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to compete for jobs by providing benefits. You know, he's giving money one way or the other, just sort of a silly way to do things, but that's what he did. And when he did that, he wanted health care to be part of that benefit, so if you paid premiums for health care and you were an insurer, you could use that as a way to entice workers to your company. Hence, we ended up with the Stabilization Act of 1942, and ever since that time, you all have been blinded to health care costs. Subsequent to that, many of you know that in the 60s, Lyndon Baines Johnson signed a bill, the Mills Bill. That bill, I think it was H.R. 6675, is commonly known as Medicare. When that bill was initially passed, it was also passed with some good intentions. Arguments similar to what you're hearing now, in that we want to pass Medicare because there's some seniors who will end up having to go to the acute hospital, and they'll use all their resources and they'll go broke and they'll be left in dire straits. A laudable concern, but instead of just picking a population that would be means tested, that would be susceptible to that and that couldn't afford their own insurance, they said, we're going to make it apply to everybody as an entitlement. Now, since that day, I've recognized that, well, not since that day, I was pretty young then, I was only in the first, second, third grade, something like that. But what I have come to realize is because of that, I now get to pay for Ted Turner's health insurance. Like he needs for me to pay for his health insurance. And even when that was initially passed, it wasn't such a terrible thing. It accomplished the acute hospitalization coverage that we wanted, but government, as you know, if you've gotten to this point in life, you recognize that they can't keep their hands out of this kind of stuff, and so they started to provide additional provisions, and it cost us more money. And now we get to pay for doctors' offices, we pay for post-hospital rehab, we pay for all sorts of things, and because of that, Medicare is going broke. And it has become an unbelievable bureaucracy. And, in my opinion, those two bills that I talked about have led to fewer physicians practicing medicine in primary care.